Have you ever had a friend or a game in your past that to this day still evokes strong emotional memories? Maybe it feels so long ago, but in the grand scheme of our lives is but a blink away. 2005, 19 years ago. Still to this day, a difficult time in my life to piece together. I was an army brat, and this would be the year my family would be stationed for the first time in a foreign country. At 12 years old, I had already gone through plenty of moves and was used to it. This, however, would be a move unlike any other, simply because I knew shortly after arriving in Germany that my father would be getting deployed to the war zone in Iraq. My family would be surrounded by people speaking a language we could not understand, an entirely different way of life. Of course, at 12 I had very little understanding of the impact all of these changes would have on my adult life and my entire view of the world. The move was frightening. I can vividly remember landing at the Frankfurt airport, stepping off the plane, and feeling almost like I had stepped into an alternate dimension. People were speaking and I couldn't understand them, and every sign had to be carefully examined to find the English translation. A whole different world that would later be exciting, but at the current moment was surreal. My family drove to the base we would be stationed at, and we stayed there for 3 months before our housing was made available. We would live in a smaller town in Germany called Landstuhl. To this day, it is still one of the most amazing and beautiful places I have ever had the chance to lay my eyes on. This is just a brief expounding on my time there, a friend I made, and a game we would both play together and bond over. My school year would be starting shortly. My first day in middle school and the 7th grade. I would walk to my bus stop, just a short 10-minute walk from my house, and wait. I had no clue who anyone was. We were all American kids who happened to be living off post, waiting mostly silently for the bus to arrive. As anyone who has ridden on school buses knows, the ride to school is both socially awkward, especially when new, and an overwhelming time for all the senses. I can't remember who spoke first, but I happened to sit next to a kid with long black hair that completely obscured his face. He had the look of the time that could only be described as a skater kid. For the sake of his own personal life, I'll refer to him as K. Me and him were not only going to be best friends, but we were going to see both the ugliest times in our childhood and embrace some of the best times together. K's cool skater kid facade would shortly be broken, as I realized he was just as socially awkward as I was, and just as much of a nerd. I would walk to his house, which would happen to be on the way to the bus stop, and wait for him every morning. We would walk together and talk about our adventures in video games, our love of music, and what we wanted to do after school for fun. We both probably didn't have the best of times navigating our way through school, but found solace in each other's company. Middle school is always an awkward transitioning phase into high school, as well as just a generally awkward time for children. Kay and I both somehow found a way to make friends and stay out of the eye, mostly, of any trouble. Over the next few years, we spent many days running around in the nearby woods with other children, playing war games with rubber weapons made of foam wrapped around tubing. Looking back now, I sometimes wince at the thought of what nearby passers may have thought of us, smacking each other with make-believe swords and spears. During these times, we also played soccer, listened to music, especially at the time metal, and of course played video games. One day while we were at Kay's house after school, I was watching him play a game called Guild Wars. From my point of view, I had not seen anything like it. At the time, I was mostly playing a PlayStation 2 and not really ever gotten into computer games. He had a rollerball track mouse, which I'd never used on a computer. The novelty of it really fascinated me. I watched for hours as he explored around pre-Searing Ascalon, going on his own adventure. It wasn't until he returned to the town in game that I realized that many people were all playing together and socializing. At the time, MySpace was just taking off and Facebook had just been created. The online social interactive space wasn't really at the forethought of either of us till our high school years. This was an amazing atmosphere. Seeing people have casual conversations or seeing them selling their hard-earned loot for gold made me really feel like this was a completely different type of game. All of this while being able to participate solo or in a group with friends in a fantasy atmosphere with classes catered to any individual's personal taste. To say I was hooked would be an understatement. My birthday would be coming up shortly, and Kay's gift to me would be my own copy of Guild Wars. At the time most of this would be going on, my father would shortly be deployed. The emotions I felt still to this day feel very undiscernible. I felt anger, sadness, and many times from the 8th grade to the 10th, and an overwhelming feeling of despair. Kay's home life wasn't easy as well. I remember many times as young men we'd both seen each other cry and lash out. Unfortunately, neither of us knew how to process our emotions, even on display. We could only just sit there and experience them from a far-off view. Kay spent many days at my house, and likewise I would spend many days at his, playing games and living our lives, simultaneously trying to keep whatever burden of a monster was bothering either of us at bay. On the days where we couldn't connect in person, we had Guild Wars. From the safety of his computer and the safety of mine tucked neatly away under my house stairwell, we would play together. The landscape of the game, the beautiful music, and the fun times we had battling monsters and farming for loot, hours on end. All of it was a simple way to escape and participate together in a solemn bond of disassociating from reality. On the many times Kay would be grounded from the computer, he would spend time at my house, and we would gladly switch off letting each other play our individual accounts. Every birthday, Kay would gift me the next expansion for Guild Wars, all the way up to Nightfall. We would continue to play together for years to come, and along the way both of us would make our own friends in game and even join guilds. Can't speak for Kay, but to this day many of these memories are still the most vivid for me. I also really can't speak on Kay's struggles out of respect. I was there, but that would be for him to share. These years would be the most trying in my life. A constant fear of my father passing in combat, my struggles with school, and a lack in the general public school's understanding for individual needs of every child. My anger many times was uncontrollable, but I feel as though it was the easiest emotion for me to be able to express. The sadness, depression, and anxiety of life could not be put into words for myself without some level of embarrassment. This would all culminate into something I still struggle with to this day, a checkout from reality. Completely disassociating from oneself, sometimes for extended periods. It's an odd feeling, almost like you're kind of playing a video game and you're the character. The interactions all feel fake, and the things that happen you have no control over. 19 years later, and I feel much better, but that pain from that time in my life still crops up randomly throughout the years. At 31, I sometimes still revel in the fact I made it this long. So many years of my childhood really do feel like a blur, or that they didn't even happen. I'm so thankful to where I am at now, and the struggled improvements I've made on my mental health hopefully all show. To ArenaNet, thank you for making a wonderful game that has meant so much to my childhood, and for giving me that brief reprieve from the difficult times in my life. The wonderful music, and amazing scenery, and the world you created to this day still hold the fondest of memories for me. I for certain will always remember the pre-steering and the many friends I made along the way. Thank you. Me and Kay have not spoken in many years. We really didn't have a falling out, but I remember moving away before the start of the 11th grade, back to the States. He came to visit me twice from Germany. I generally think the paths we chose to walk into adulthood just seemed to be very different, and so we drifted apart. To Kay, I wish you nothing but the best. God knows you deserve it. You will always hold some of my closest memories, and in my heart, you were one of the greatest people I ever was able to know, truly. Wherever you are, know I still always think about the moments we shared and all the struggles we went through together. Godspeed, and I hope life is blooming for you in the best way possible. With love to all.